It's calm and quiet tonight outside of Church of the Immaculate Conception in Lonsdale, but what happened inside these doors during a recent Sunday homily has some incredibly upset.
Extremely disappointed.
Jailani Hussein, executive director of CAIR Minnesota, is speaking out after audio of that Sunday sermon was shared on a blog.
We should not be allowing large numbers of Muslims asylum or immigration into our country. Islam is the greatest threat in the world, both to Christianity and to America.
Father Nick Vandenbroeke is the pastor of the church and made his remarks on January 5th, observed as Immigration Day by Minnesota bishops.
Of course, there are peaceful Muslims, absolutely. But the religion as a religion and as an ideology and worldview, it is contrary to Christ and to America.
Others see those words as a big step back in building interfaith relationships. Tonight, an apology from Father Vandenbroeke, who released this statement saying, quote, "My homily on immigration contained words that were hurtful to Muslims. I'm sorry for this. I realize now that my comments were not fully reflective of the Catholic Church's teaching on Islam."
I think there are real consequences to these types of behavior, and I hope someone who listened to that does not become more radicalized, where they now see Muslims as a threat, where they become a threat to Muslims.
And thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Brian Sterling. News 8 at 11 begins tonight with developing news. A restaurant chain based in West Michigan is being sued by two former employees, accusing them of religious and racial discrimination.
Former Anna's House manager Alicia Dunlap chokes back tears describing racist remarks she says the CEO made about employees. She says they include telling African American workers they couldn't dye their hair red while not mentioning anything to Caucasians.
And if I can't give them better, I can't advocate for them or represent them, that I at least owe them my story.
He wanted to create an atmosphere of homogeny, of white Christian values that really have no place in today's culture.
The lawsuit was filed today in federal court on the east side of the state, working with the Michigan chapter of CAIR, Council on American Islamic Relations. It claims they have evidence that the restaurant owner, Josh Beckett, has posted several things on social media that could be considered racist and Islamophobic.
A statement from Beckett says Anna's House is aware of the lawsuit filed today. We have retained counsel and will defend against these claims in court. Anna's House has and continues to be a place that employs and serves people of all backgrounds and beliefs.
As you will hear, the actual offender to these two individuals right here was sharing messages and sharing tweets of our President Donald Trump.
Okay, we're going to get back on track here. In Ohio headlines, a white woman in Middletown is accused of hitting her Muslim Uber driver several times in the face. She's already been charged, but Jatara McGee explains why a civil rights group says that's not enough.
There is a lady in the car. She's cursing me, and I would like to see a cop.
Middletown police say that voice belongs to Melisa Lovins, heard screaming numerous times during the 6-minute call.
You're not from here, and you're out.
The driver, who is Muslim, picked up the 39-year-old Trenton woman and a man. He stopped for a train to pass in Middletown when he says Lovins started asking him about politics and Donald Trump. The driver said he wasn't allowed to talk about politics, but says Lovins came belligerent and started yelling xenophobic slurs. And after he called police...
Yeah, he started hitting me.
I'm not surprised at all that something like this happened again, even though the nature of this incident is equally disgusting.
CAIR Ohio, the Council on American Islamic Relations, wants Lovins to be charged with ethnic intimidation under Ohio's hate crime statute. CAIR says there's been an unprecedented spike in hate crimes nationwide since 2016. The staff attorney says this case has hate written all over it.
Because of the comments that she made, go back to where you came from. I'm American, you're not American.
Calls tonight for a hate crime investigation after a political forum turned nasty in the Antelope Valley. The event was held at the American Islamic Institute in Palmdale last Saturday. Well, soon after the candidates were introduced, a small group in the audience started shouting and disrupting the program. And that's when everyone lost it.
You are bigots. And by the way, if you vote with them, you're a liar. Bigots.
You're a liar.
Okay, no, you're a bigot.
You're a liar.
A small group in the audience started shouting anti-Muslim comments and even threatened to pull the hijabs off several women. Eventually, sheriff deputies had to be called in to calm things down. The Council on American Islamic Relations is now calling for a hate crime investigation.
They were literally terrorizing the folks that were attending that candidate forum.
And they tried to remove hijab for two of our ladies, and which is a violation. This is a hate crime when you do that.
Well, sheriff's deputies had to be called in to make sure things didn't turn violent.
A complaint was lodged and with Palmdale Station regarding the department's response and the incident believing a hate crime had occurred, and law enforcement action was not taken, particularly arrests made being of the audience members. The complaint review is still underway. The initial findings after talking with numerous witnesses that there was no hate crime.
First tonight on Fox, we have exclusive video tonight of someone spraying graffiti at a downtown mosque. The nation's largest Muslim civil rights and advocacy group wants Charleston police to consider the possibility of a bias motive.
When you have people, or if you have people in your community who hold bigoted views, often it moves beyond vandalism to other kinds of incidents.
The nationwide Muslim and civil rights advocacy group says graffiti on a wall could turn into something more serious.
Given the fact that we've seen so many incidents targeting mosques, churches, synagogues, Sikh temples and other houses of worship around the country, we just thought it was important law enforcement authorities at least consider the possibility of a bias motive when they're doing the investigation.
Well, the Charleston student got more than a bad grade today. 18-year-old Hailley Riddle is charged with spray painting graffiti on the side of the Islamic Center of Charleston last month.
Police say Riddle spray painted this message on the side of the building. Police charged Riddle with malicious injury to a place of worship. But her attorney told ABC News 4 exclusively there was nothing malicious about it.
I want the community to understand that what she spray painted was utterly blessed in pink and purple writing. It was in no way a derogatory term.
The Council on American Islamic Relations, they thank police for the swift and professional actions and welcome this arrest.
Thanks so much, Adam. Moving on to our top story this morning. Judge Jessie LeBlanc is resigning from the 23rd Judicial District Court Division D. The resignation comes after Judge LeBlanc admitted to using racial slurs.
Yeah, the slurs were used in text messages between LeBlanc and her extramarital lover, Assumption Parish Chief Deputy Bruce Prejean. The text messages showed Judge LeBlanc using the N-word while referring to an African-American deputy and law clerk. Prejean was demoted from his position due to the affair last year.
The Council on American Islamic Relations released a statement about Judge LeBlanc's resignation, saying, "We welcome Judge LeBlanc's resignation and thank all those who stated clearly that they would not tolerate racial bias and espoused by someone who is required to administer the law with impartiality and objectivity."
Why is CAIR involved in this?
A Muslim woman in Jackson is speaking out tonight after she claims she was attacked because of her religion. Police say a group of teen boys yelled out derogatory comments at her while shooting off fireworks.
It was infuriating, and it was also pretty scary at the same time.
Yasira Nelson was walking down North Street near Edgewood in her Jackson neighborhood when she says she heard what sounded like gunshots.
It was a loud pop, and then they yelled, and then it was pop, pop.
Nelson was wearing her hijab.
I thought somebody was shooting at me for the sake of me being Muslim. Then I heard someone yell Muslim, and then I heard two more loud pops, followed by Ali Akbar.
Jackson Director of Police and Fire Elmer Hitt tells me those pops were fireworks, and the people responsible, 13-year-old boys. Nelson now calling for those teens to be charged with a hate crime.
It is a hate crime. They tried to intimidate me. They tried to frighten me. They terrorized me.
And demanding an apology. Nelson's attorney from the Council on American Islamic Relations, or CAIR, telling me they will fight this in the court system.
We have a system in which juvenile offenders are dealt with in a manner that's different from adult offenders. We're not asking that they be charged as an adult, but we are
asking that these children have some consequences for their actions.
Our top story tonight, a Clifton man is in custody for threatening Patterson's Muslim police chief.
It's unclear how the suspect received the chief's cell phone number, but this isn't an isolated case of threats against the Muslim community in Patterson. On this website forum on barenakedislam.com, threats were made to local mosques in Patterson following the city council's recent first vote, allowing all faiths to use an exterior call to prayer. Representatives from the Council on American Islamic Relations weighed in on the recent post with a statement saying, "Our CAIR New Jersey office called on the FBI today to investigate an online threat that suggested blowing up mosques in Patterson. Like the violent threat made against Patterson's Muslim police chief, we hope that law enforcement takes this latest threat very seriously and investigates accordingly."
A class offered on Cal State San Bernardino's Palm Desert campus receives tough criticism. It's being called anti-Islamic. Now an advocacy group in Los Angeles is asking for an explanation and an apology.
The history of Islam from Muhammad to ISIS. Imagine someone starting a class that says the history of Christianity from Jesus to the KKK.
A PowerPoint slide during class claimed Arabs are not moral people, calling them liars and cheaters. A student then reached out to a civil rights and advocacy group on American Islamic relations.
We wanted to bring their attention to the fact that this is happening. We asked them for a quick apology, a cancellation of this circus that claims to be a class, and for a clear clarification of their vetting process.
The class is cancelled, and I believe that's in the best interest of the university.
And when I asked if the professor would be teaching classes here in the future, there was no clear answer.
I'm not making any future decision at this moment.
CAIR LA says the cancellation is not enough.
They have yet to apologize for the hurt, the defamation, the bigotry that happened under their name. They have yet to clarify what is their vetting process. How do we know this is not going to happen again?
Lowndes County Supervisor Harry Sanders has come under a lot of hot water for some statements many consider racist that he made in a Mississippi newspaper. And now the state Republican Party has come out against him as well.
How much are we going to be dragged through the mud because of Harry Sanders' racist attitude?
Sanders said black people have been dependent since slavery and said, quote, "We haven't had slavery in the United States for 150 years. Why is it still an issue?" Unquote.
The Council on American Islamic Relations also is calling for the resignation of Sanders. The organization's national communications director said in these words, "Our nation's leaders and policymakers at the local, state, and federal levels must understand and take part in the growing movement against anti-black racism and white supremacy." A spokesman added that the organization recently joined the growing call to remove a Confederate symbol from the Mississippi state flag.
In Washington, D.C., the Council on American Islamic Relations is also calling for the resignation of Supervisor Sanders. National Communications Director Ibrahim Hooper said, quote, "Our nation's leaders and policymakers at the local, state, and federal levels must understand and take part in the growing movement against anti-black racism and white supremacy." Hooper added that the council recently joined the growing call to remove a Confederate symbol from the Mississippi state flag.
The Kentucky chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations, or CAIR Kentucky, released a statement demanding all officers involved in the shooting death of black business owner David McAtee be fired. Body cameras were off when cops and the National Guard say they were trying to break up a large gathering Sunday night after curfew when someone started shooting. Officers say they returned fire and McAtee died. Today, Louisville police say new security camera video from McAtee's business and an adjoining business show McAtee shooting a gun as officers approached his business.
Louisville Metro Police released new video today while saying it appears as if the video confirms David McAtee fired upon officers first, forcing them to return fire. Take a look at this. The man in the white t-shirt is holding a gun. and the woman on the left appears to point towards a gun that McAtee dropped after apparently being struck by at least one bullet. McAtee appears to clutch for his chest, then begins to stumble to the ground.
It's very, very painful.
And not only was her son gunned down, but his body was left out there for hours by the police.
Left so undignified to just leave his body laying there. I mean, they killed him and they just left him there like an animal. The same thing with George Floyd. I mean,
The white man was arrested here in Stevens Point after police say he harassed and used racial slurs against Hmong people wearing face masks. It happened on May 12th at Save-A-Lot on Church Street when a drunken 57-year-old named Robert Shrote saw Hmong people entering the store.
They were wearing masks because of the COVID to protect themselves while they were shopping in public.
The police report states Shrote, who is white, started to harass the shoppers using racial slurs. He later allegedly admitted targeting them for their race.
Basically blaming them for the reason why we were in the state of the pandemic that we are.
The department recommending charges worth up to a year in jail time. The latest incident in Stevens Point receiving national criticism from the Council on American Islamic Relations. The Stevens Point mayor says these actions will not be tolerated.
I give you my word that when we see or hear about these acts of hatred and bigotry and racism, that we will deal with them swiftly and justly.
Not all crimes like this are reported, but police say this would be the first COVID-19 related hate crime to happen here in Stevens Point. In Portage County, Tom Lally, News 9, WAOW.
No one puts, the KKK on the cup of somebody's drink. Minnesota chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations plans to call
for a Target Starbucks employee to be fired and for additional training for other employees.
This is not a simple mistake.
We call for the firing.
Unfortunately, with Islamophobia, the number one thing Muslims are discriminatorily identified is terrorist. And the fact of the matter here is that using this word for us would be the same as, as a black man today being used the N-word or anything else that would be offensive.
Target said in part that they are sorry and that they had, quote, immediately apologized to her when she made the store leaders aware of the situation.
Target's investigation has concluded that the barista made a mistake and that she never heard of ISIS, which for us is extremely problematic. And shows the lack of care and understanding and how deeply hurtful this is to the Muslim community. Here's a picture of the cup that CAIR Minnesota shared. The woman who got that cup says she gave the employee her name.
This young lady's name is Aisha.
But when she got her drink, this is what was written on it. CAIR Minnesota asking for the worker who wrote it to be fired, as well as the manager who told them that it was a mistake. We now may ask for an outside investigator.
Leelanau County Road Commissioner Tom Eckerle facing growing calls to resign after using a racial slur in blaming the state's COVID-19 crisis on black Detroiters during a recent board meeting. According to the local paper there, the Leelanau Enterprise, the comments came after Eckerle was asked why he was not wearing a mask. He responded by saying, quote, well, this whole thing is because of them N-words down in Detroit. Board Chairman Bob Joyce reportedly pushed back, telling Eckerle he could not say that, but the commissioner doubled down, responding, I can say anything I want. And Black Lives Matter has everything to do with taking the country away from us. Dawood Walid from the Council of American Islamic Relations in Michigan was one of the first Metro Detroit leaders to condemn the remarks.
Well, when he's saying Black Lives Matter, that's code word for black people in general. From his statement, he's feeling that they're taking America away from us as meaning that white dominance. So this is really a white supremacist comment. That this individual feels so emboldened to have said this publicly shows that there's a greater problem that's going on, not only in the state of Michigan, but around the country.
But it could take nearly a year to have Eckerle removed from office.
An act of hate. That's what the president of Georgetown's NAACP branch is calling a noose found hanging inside a Georgetown County vehicle. Now, community members and officials are asking for an employee to be fired. Spokesperson for the county releasing a statement saying, quote, following the investigation, that employee was suspended for 2 weeks without pay. As this is an ongoing personnel issue, no further comment on the matter will be issued by Georgetown. Council on American Islamic Relations, the nation's largest Muslim civil rights and advocacy organization, joined the NAACP in calling for the firing of that employee, adding, quote, these types of incidents indicate the urgent need for all Americans to speak out against anti-black racism and white supremacy.
A Northeast Wisconsin college employee is out of a job tonight after making controversial comments on social media.
National groups are getting involved because of one comment about a Muslim congresswoman. Fox 11's Kia Murray has a closer look.
Bigots not being brain surgeons, they're usually equal opportunity offenders. When they go after one group of people, they'll normally go after another group of people too.
Ibrahim Hooper is responding to reports of a local college spokesperson's controversial social media posts. Fox Valley Technical College spokesperson Chris Jossart made the comments and posts on LinkedIn. They reportedly called the Black Lives Matter movement a disgrace. Reports add Jossart referred to U.S. Representative Ilhan Omar, a Democrat and Muslim woman from Minnesota, as anti-American filth.
I almost do the exact job that this guy used to do. And, I just find it incomprehensible that somebody in this kind of position where you're trying to put out a positive message to the community would do just the opposite.
It's why Hooper tells me he wants everyone to walk away from this situation with just a little more education. In Grand Chute, Kia Murray.
Minneapolis Police Union head Bob Kroll is again under fire from civil rights activists. This comes 6 days after protesters converged on Kroll's neighborhood in Hugo and beat piñata effigies of Kroll and his wife, a local TV reporter.
White racist motherfuckers! We coming for everything that you motherfuckers took from us. We coming for them seats. We coming for the money you owe us.
Kroll issued a statement to CAIR that read in part, the city cannot fire people for being good at their jobs.
250,000 signatures that the Council on American Islamic Relations and other groups says that it will submit today here at City Hall. Today's petition is just this latest move by these groups.
And right now, protesters are on the move in North Minneapolis. They spent most of the afternoon outside the office of the Minneapolis Police Federation. They are calling for the removal of Union President Bob Kroll.
Bob Kroll has a history of being part of 50 complaints, and we know that majority of people who are victims of some form of police brutality actually do not report and do not file complaints. So 50 is just to show that Bob Kroll has committed even much more that we don't know. George Floyd was killed by a system and laws that have been established in this country for quite some time.
Now let's talk about a renewed call for a group of Phoenix police officers to be fired and criminally charged after a new video of an in-custody death. This happened back in 2017. Activists say the video shows officers impeding the man's ability to breathe while another appears to mock his religion.
Being disciplined and fired from the department. Number two, possible criminal charges against the officers that were involved in this. You need to treat people with dignity and respect, and that goes into speaking, with respect about their faith or their color or how they look, their disability. It seems as though that type of bias was brought into this policing interaction as well, and you're basically taking away the humanity of this individual and joking about it.
According to the Phoenix Police Department, that's an inaccurate interpretation. Phoenix police say their officers are trained to diffuse situations when possible, which is what was done for Muhammad, adding officers did not mock or target Mr. Muhammad based on his religion, race, or any other factor.
This is not something that can be PR'd away. This was a human being's life that was in their hands, and the person lost their life.
The county attorney's office says that they would not reopen that case unless the Phoenix Police Department resubmitted with new evidence.
The Council on American Islamic Relations is now calling for an investigation into
circumstances surrounding a photo.
Berkeley County Council member Tommy Newell should consider stepping down. Newell posted this picture to his Facebook account. He said he was playing a terrorist, the, quote, sheik of Berkeley County, for a training exercise. That exercise was done outside of the county with a private company. But now the Council on American Islamic Relations says Newell's actions and clothing are offensive.
By associating ordinary Middle Eastern and Islamic attire with terrorism, Councilman Newell and the organizers of the training exercise are
placing Muslim families in danger of stereotyping and
bias.
So when you automatically associate this attire with terrorism, it really can create a negative environment for ordinary American Muslims and their families, who could suffer discrimination, bias, and even violence in some cases.
They're asking county officials to now investigate this incident and to, quote, repudiate the type of xenophobia and Islamophobia it represents, end quote.
Today, a chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations is holding a news conference this morning in front of the Wyandotte County Unified Government Building. They are demanding that Wyandotte County officials reopen criminal cases in which they say were unjust. The group says the cases it is questioning involve a former police detective who's been connected with corruption and abuse in other cases. The news conference will begin at 10 a.m.
Islamic leaders question what they call wrongful convictions, wrongful imprisonments, unsolved homicides, and misuse of power.
We're talking about former KCK detective and police captain Roger Golubski.
A prominent group in Portland called for Mayor Wheeler to step down.
We don't take this call to resignation lightly. This is a very serious request.
They held a virtual announcement earlier tonight. Meanwhile, the mayor has a message for anyone who's asking him to resign.
For those who don't want to work with me, maybe they'd work with one of my colleagues, or maybe they work with Mike, or maybe they'd work with the chief. This is an all hands on deck call.
I think first and foremost.
But in a virtual announcement earlier tonight, CAIR Oregon, the Council of American Islamic Relations, says it's a new level of concern.
These groups are coming in and terrorizing our community, and the community does not have the confidence in law enforcement or city leadership to protect us from these elements.
Tonight, they're demanding new leadership, clear vision, and a clear understanding of the problems in Portland.
At this point, afraid for additional harms that are going to be caused to our community.
Police here in Cambridge now investigating one of their own, a lieutenant here at Cambridge Police Headquarters. He's accused of posting controversial tweets. The tweets mock Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley's alopecia, criticize the Black Lives Matter movement, and call Democrats American jihadists. The Council on American Islamic Relations calls the tweets racist and Islamophobic.
This is a wake-up call for the Cambridge Police Department as a whole to, think more about what type of training and, conversations they have with their, police officers around community tolerance and community education.
In a statement, police called the social media post deeply disturbing and said while the department recognizes that employees have a right to free speech under the First Amendment, the department will not tolerate statements that are inflammatory, discriminatory, and/or disrespectful to any individuals, races, or ethnicities that are linked in any way to an officer's employment as a Cambridge police officer.
Anytime that we hear from someone who's supposed to be a leader of the community or a protector of the community being, intolerant, to the people that they're supposed to be serving, we find that very troubling.
Well, John LaTour is the Republican candidate running for State House District 86. He is facing incumbent Democrat Nicole Clowney, who currently holds that office. On Monday, LaTour posted this on Facebook saying, quote, Antifa and BLM are now saying that they are coming to the country. I wonder what the bag limit is and where I can purchase a riot idiot hunting license. Now, LaTour did not respond to any of our calls or emails for comment. I did talk to a spokesperson from the Council on Islamic Relations about this post.
They're trying to get the world to see and acknowledge that their lives matter. Someone's response is going to be, I want to get a hunting license to kill them. I think that that's why it's important that we speak out about that and bring attention to that. But when you let comments like this go unchecked, it just makes more room for people to feel like they become emboldened and encouraged to continue making comments like this.
A national Muslim advocacy group is calling on a Tennessee state lawmaker to change his recent appointment to the state's textbook commission, saying the person he chose displays anti-Muslim views.
Now, Cardoza Moore says the claims are baseless.
If this individual does have the influence that she has sought in the past, she would obviously seek to either remove any positive or even neutral portrayal of Islam and Muslims from textbooks and instead insert a negative one. This has been a conspiracy theory nationwide. It's not just Tennessee, that somehow if students are taught the basics about the faith of more than 1 billion Muslims, that somehow they're going to be automatically converted into being Muslims. It's all utter nonsense.
But Cardoza Moore says their claims are baseless.
And I have no problem with Islam being in the textbooks. It's when you are promoting anti-Semitic views, when you're pushing religion, when you violate the U.S. and state constitutions by favoring a religion over all others, then yes, I'm going to interject and I'm going to speak up.
This person has no place and should have no role in choosing textbooks for the state of Tennessee.